Right, this one has taken get it sorted. This has been a long build, and it's been a kind of it's taken me a while to pull this one together, right? But I want to do this video to show what I've done with the fermentation controller. Basically, what happened, I'll take you back. So I was using the FTS, I think it's FTS or FTSS. It's SSBrewtech fermentation controllers, and they sat on the brewing tanks. And what happened is one of the power switches actually broke. It actually, I think what happened is it faulted, or it basically went solid, so you couldn't actually turn it off. It was stuck on all the time, and then if you did manage to push it off, then you couldn't get it back on. It was just solid, and it was then causing failures as well, where it would, even if it was on, sometimes it would just trip off, sort of thing. So I got in touch with the malt miller, and luckily enough, they had one left, and that was it. So they sent me that out, which kind of got me round to actually, getting my fermentation back up and running. I took apart the old one to see what it was like, and basically all it is it's an STC 1000, and you've got a 12-volt power supply that comes in, and then that then divvies, it powers the STC 1000, and then it decides if it's going to send heat to a 12-volt heater pad or power to a 12-volt pump. And all that does is it pumps glycol from your glycol chiller through your coil. So effectively, it's just two really basic relays that are sitting in that panel. And it was at the time as well when Craftbeer Pi 4 it kind of started to become more stable as such, if we could say that. But I'd started playing with Craftbeer Pi 4, and I'd upgraded the brewery controller, and I did a whole bunch of vids as well on the back of it, which was just to pass on my knowledge. So I'm doing that again. Effectively, what's happened is the fermentation controller, I wanted to build a Craftbeer Pi 4 one because it was different, and to see, all the benefits of having to come into the garage to see, what temp is and has something failed, and to track and monitor from my phone anywhere. You can be anywhere in the world. You just dial into the VNC viewer, and bingo, you can see what's going on. And then if you're at a certain time point, you can then change the fermentation. So if fermentation's done, you can raise the temp or whatever, or you can go, right, well, that's been 5 days in a dry hop now, I want a crash cool, and you can do that. The other thing is you can pre-program steps as well. So you can say, right, I want a 14-day ferment, or a 7-day or a 10-day, and then I want to have 2 or 3 days then at 21, and then I want it automatically to then drop to 14 for my dry hop. You can then come in, do your dry hop, and it will hold it at that temp. Say you say, right, okay, I want it 5 days or something, or 2 days, and then it will automatically then go to a crash as well. So it's super cool. You can have loads of different temp probes. So in mine, I've got a temp probe I've actually put into the glycol solution, so I can actually even see if the glycol fermenter's failed. So it's normally should be sitting somewhere around -4 or -2, depending if it's pulling from it or what. And then it's a case of, and then it'll monitor the unitank, and it'll monitor the chronicle. And then the other thing I've got a spare one as well, so I can put it on the bucket fermenter as well. So that was the whole benefit. I wanted to get something that, was fully controllable. Now, the other benefits was that if in future, say in 3 or 4 years time, whatever, right, and I was still using the SSBrewtech system, then I could if there was a failure in that, then it's like, well, I need to go and buy a whole new controller setup sort of thing. Whereas I've built this myself, then if it really fails, then I just go and buy another, 12-volt rated relay with the controller. These things are super common in the builds for this, for the Arduino and the Raspberry Pi. So all the components I could then fix myself and get the thing back up and running if need be in future. So it was kind of future proofing as well, which is really cool. Now, I had to pull together all the parts. Okay, so things that if you're looking to do, then these are the sort of parts I would recommend. First of all, you need your project box. Now, I went for, you can see it behind me. Where is it there? This is the box here, right? It's mounted on the wall. I went for a kind of smallish one because it's not got SSRs and all that sort of gubbins, and it's all 12 volts. So all the power bricks were outside. I just reused basically the SSBrewtech power bricks. And so you need a project box, whatever size you want to go for, right? I had to get another box to go below it because I'll explain is the temp probes, because I'm basically trying to test this for you guys and for myself. I initially went for the DS18B20 probes. These are the standard ones that I've got in the actual brewery controller, right? They're really cheap. They're, I've got nice long ones as well, and they're, I think it's one wire they're called, they're one wire sensors. The problem with these is they freeze. So what can end up happening is you'll be doing a ferment and it'll be saying, oh, it's too cold, right? Because it's frozen at 17 degrees, so it keeps pumping heat, right? And then it just heats up your beer and it'll ruin it. Or vice versa, what will happen is, it'll say it's too hot, and then it's stuck on too hot, and then it keeps trying to send glycol, and then your beer ends up, it's crash cold. And yeah, you don't want that. So that was an issue I had issues with it basically freezing on the actual readings. So the way around this actually is to go for PT100 probes. These are super accurate, and the way you need to do is for each probe you need a little circuit board that's called a Max 31865. So you need one of them per probe. So I got 3 probes, and I've even got a spare one as well. So I bought 4, but I'm only using 3 of these things. And yeah, so you need them. Okay, I recommend that you do not go down the DS18B20 one wire probes. Other things, so you've got your box, you've got your probes, you need your 12 volt relays, so you'll need one for heat and one for cool for each fermenter. So for me, I'll need basically 1, 2, 3, 4, and then later on, I built this initially just to do the Chronicle and the Unitank, but then later on I added on a 240 volt capable relays as well to do the 240 volt pump that I've got, and a 240 pad heater for the anvil bucket, because they were on a Inkbird. So I actually scavenged the Inkbird and just stole all the plug off it, and also the double, the heat and cooling thing, and wired that into the relays in there. So if you're like me and you've got 3 fermenters, you'll be wanting a 6 relay type board or more, whatever. Basically each item you want to power, you need a relay for each. So that's what I ended up buying a board with 4 on it and another board with 2. Okay, the other thing you need is for me, it was a 12 volt down to a 5 volt step down transformer. I got this little car one. It was advertised for a car off eBay, but it's just a tiny little box thing that lets you take from 12 volts and it gives you 5, and then I used that then to power up the Raspberry Pi. The other thing was the actual jacks for, because when you look at the SSBrewtech equipment, it all comes with these 5.5mm jacks. So it was a 2.5 by 5.5mm and a 2.1, or is it 2.5mm and 2.1mm 5.5mm jacks. You need the two different sizes. One's for the power socket and the other one's for the actual the output, you know, the heater pad and the pump. So that's the ones you'll be looking for. I bought some Vero board as well, just so that I could wire in a Darlington transistor. Now, if you watch my previous videos, you'll notice I use a Darlington. What I'm finding is that basically the Raspberry Pi doesn't have enough power to even send to the relay boards, or enough voltage and output to actually trigger the relays. I wired it direct thinking it would, but then I had to this was another thing I found out, so not an issue. So just did another Darlington transistor array and used that to then step up to basically trigger all my relays as well. So you need that. And what else? Said about the Max 31865 PT100s, and I got some those little wiring splice board things as well, so that I could do, you know, one live in would feed lots of different out. So I needed that for the Max 31865 wiring. It was kind of, I can't remember the name of them, but yeah. These guys just lets you clip wires in. So I got a whole bag of them as well. Splices. Then you also need a Raspberry Pi 4 and an SD card. Now I've seen there was big issues with getting Raspberry Pi 4s, but I've seen on the websites I checked today, as of August 2023, you could actually get them, and they were like £35 or something like that. Just double check. Yep, £35 for a Model 4B. Okay, so the other things to take note of when I was doing the build was the actual Max 31865. You can either have a 2-wire or 3-wire or 4-wire, I think. I got 3-wire PT100s, and you actually have to cut a wee channel on the board, because it didn't work effectively, so when I first wired it all up, but when you cut the little channel, you know, on the board, then all of a sudden it fires up. So the layout I went for was to have power in on one side and then have switches, so I could turn the main thing on and off, and then I had your FE1 and FE2 switches, and then for FE3 with the 230 was, you just basically pull the plug in and out of the main board, and that would power it on or off, so you could leave that on or off that way. It would then feed over to the Raspberry Pi. That would then control via the Darlington array to my relays, and then I put all my outputs basically on the left hand side, so you would plug in if you want FE1's glycol or heating, and FE2 same, and then the bottom basically came out, and that's how you got the 240 volt side. So the 240 was kind of kept down to the left, and then everything else kind of to the top left on the other two. The actual cost of all this to do, right, it was £63 I spent on eBay, and that covered all the kind of the bits and bobs like project boxes and stuff, and then the rest was AliExpress. And AliExpress, I got the screen, I got the probes off there, and the actual controller, the wee PCBs for the controllers. Raspberry Pi already had at the time, and the SD card as well, but the Pi's 35 quid and the SD's 8. AliExpress, by the way, was £83, so it takes you up to a grand total of £189, and that gets you a absolute brilliant brewery controller that is fully wireless, and you can log into, etc. But basically, anything goes wrong with this now, I can fix it, which is just ace. So yeah, that is it. The cool thing as well is you can actually hook up the tilt. So the system will actually basically read the tilt and then gives you your values and logs it, and you can do data logging. Now the data logging on the system is very kind of limited to, I don't know, look back at the last day or something like that. There is all sorts of kind of offline or on, there's cloud logging basically that's going on, but I've not got my head around that. So if anyone actually has, then give me a shout, because I'd be really interested. I've signed up to, what was it, some sort of Amazon cloud server service to do it and stuff like that, but I'm totally out of my depth when it comes to this. But hopefully I will get there, and maybe I'll do another video if I do work it out. But if anyone knows, basically that'd be really handy to help us, point us in the right direction. Okay, I'll put up the schematic. I'm gonna share the schematic with you, and it's pretty straightforward. It's almost like the Craftbeer Pi brewery controller one I've done, except I've just swapped out the relays, and we've also now got the addition of the, what they called, the Max 31865 probes. So we've added them as well, and then everything's on 12 volts as well, apart from obviously the, what do you call it, the anvil bucket. So that's on 240 volts. So it just shows you can do anything that you want. You can build this to your specification and different fermenters, etc. But I just wanted everything on the one, basically the one sort of thing. Yeah, it was good. So yeah, that's my Craftbeer Pi 4 journey, which is really cool, and yeah, highly recommend if you've got even if you've got the brewery controller as well, then you could hook up your fridges to this and your heat mats and stuff. And it's really good if you've got multiple as well, but it just means that you can remote in, and there is other options out there in the market that are pre-built, you know. I think what the ones coming to mind is that the pill, whatever, wrapped system. I think Chris has been playing with that. But it's just one fermenter, and then you've got the Inkbird ones as well with the 308 Wi-Fi's. Again, it's limited, and when it goes Caputo, then you need to go and buy another one. You can't really fix it; it's all sealed. Yeah, so this is really cool. It's all graphical user interface. You can see, so I can come in the garage as well and have a look at it. And I can just pull it up on my phone as well and see what it is. I'll show you. It's quite cool. So you can basically see everything. Turn that. You can do set all your stuff. So at the minute I've actually turned it off. It's all paused off just now. It's because of the amount of racket. But say we continue it. Press play. Dun, dun, dun. Is it at temp? As it's okay, it's at 7.4, right? And then this one, back to that, but you can turn on the chiller. There you go. So you can play about on your phone basically and control all your temps, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah, you hear it clicking away. So that's the fermenting system. You can then just put all the usual sort of graphical interfaces. I've got like unitanks and stuff. You can get vector files, make up your own vector files and put in your logos. And then, yeah, put all your temperatures and stuff and your targets, and it's all good. Alright. Well, hopefully that was informative for you enough, and I've not dragged it on too much. And maybe it'll get you guys thinking about building one yourself. It's really good for like multiple vessels and stuff like that. And yeah, so cool. Right, I'll catch you later and keep brewing. See you later. Bye.